is what helps you to define things, you will reach in what's called a sequencing grammar. Things in their reality are not conform with the structure. Things or object is what is independent. If I start, that's why when I talk about the scope is to the analysis that Greimas gives us, is the scope is kind of mini programs. But if I start to understand what is the singularity of la scopisture of Greimas, I can, if I take the description, okay, what I talk about, and I try to see it, it's like I squint. I talk about the reset of the scopisture, but it's not really the reset that is must talk about. The reset of the scopisture is not really the same. The reset of the scopisture that Greimas described is not really the same that is present inside its program, because we have his description is very formal and very programmatic, but the way she talks about is not formal, it's programmatic. So I try to put it, I try to understand the convergence, something squared. It's like it's not false, but it's not correct. So I need also to reach in the normal grammar. And that is the main demonstration that James Leb gives us through this article, La structure morphologique, and it's very important. Very important. Object is something is independent. Okay, and what we need here is a paradox. What's a paradox? It's something who is beside, à côté. Okay? It's not something outside. That's it. Now, I would like to, okay, when I talk about the scope issue, for example, here, the operation will help us to reach, that I tell you about, vous avez préalablement lavé, vous allez oublier de vous préciser, etc., etc. One linguistic operation we have here is what we can call la parenthésisation. To put in not in bracket, but what we call parenthesis. Parenthesis? Yes. So all Greimas perform all his reset by putting parenthesis. So that's very important. As like it's kind of paradoxal, no? Like parenthesis, like thing like that. Okay? Vous n'avez pas oublié, etc., etc. And the one way we have to analyze the parenthesis is from linguistics. So every time you like to analyze an object, try to think about the process. Try to think about how the language has been used to talk about this thing. And I will show you that through the examples here. And all the analysis, but what's important and what is very, very remarkable of the analysis is that every time when you start to build his system, and sometimes he reach on this kind of problem. What does he say? He said, à première vue, c'est le temps de la cuisson plus long que les autres légumes qui détermine à lui seul l'autonomisation de cette PM. Il est évident que de ce point de vue, la recette de cuisine est mal rédigée. So once Greimas start to analyze this reset, and when he start to reach in the way this reset abstracts really the main result, you say that is bad written. The reset is bad presented. It's like a kind of, for him, it's like a kind of, he don't want to talk about that. He is aware that there is a problem, but for him, because this way to talk about the reset doesn't help him to build his program, the problem is not the description, the problem is the reset. So you have many kind of phenomenon in say when you do seniority. when you start to build, let's say, a narrative scheme, and sometimes you are every time to avoid things. Okay, this is not really important because it's not in the wrong way. So you have to, when you start to talk about, okay, this is really important, okay, for you, what is that, why it has to be analyzed. You have to analyze what's important in the structure. When you analyze, for example, a story, okay, how can we build a program? Okay, for example, Cinderella, written by this author or this other authors. Okay, you are able to put a program, but what you have to map, to catch, and have to take in account is what is not inside the program. And then you reach on what I call the individuality of a singularity. Okay, so we have the same thing in Remas, and you talk about this thing 2 times. La recette est mal rédigée ici, and at the end, what you talk about, he says, for example, you talk about when you start the parmesan, you have to put parmesan many times and so on. And he say, okay, parmesan is, you know what is parmesan? When you okay, put it, and say, okay. Le programme narratif auquel se trouve soumis le parmesan est une opération redondante du point de vue de sa culturalisation. Et la première impression qui se dégage de la recette est que le statut naturel de l'ail et du basilic se trouve camouflé par une rhétorique textuelle. For him, what is not inside the structure is not rhetorical things. It's not important to understand the recette. But we have the same problem in Remas. Remas is the first to understand that, to talk about this kind of empirical things. But for him, it's not semiotics. But what I tried to show is that if you don't analyze this kind of rhetorical thing, as you say in bracket, you can understand what is really, what is called Massouf. And my challenge is to try to show how we are obliged to put these things which are not inside. So these things which are not ontological inside the semiotic analysis. Is the one way to talk about an object. An object is not an ontological thing, is an empirical thing. That's why the first thing I would like to talk about. The problem we have in semiotics is that we are, all the analysis we are doing, even Fontani, Floch, sometimes also Landowski. What's clear? I can talk about Landowski because Anna is not here, so I'm going to go to fight him. Okay? From Landowski, what he calls socio-semiotics, okay. But the basis is ontology, it's ontology, it's basis. It's important, but it's a kind of, it's a huge evolution in semiotics, which is very important to understand what is what you call it, the risk on what's called socio-semiotics. It's very important. The problem I have about semiotics is that one thing important for analysis is you have to adjust the adjustment. So you know this concept. So when you talk about Landowski, you talk about adjustment. Okay. The problem is, okay, there is adjustment, but what do we adjust? Every time we talk about adjustment, we have to adjust. Okay. So you take this is such a super piston like adjustment. When you talk about, for example, when we talk about architectural things, okay, we adjust the thing. It's like adjust the research to other things. Okay, that's correct. But what do we adjust? How the structure of the reset of La Superpiston can be read as an architectural thing. So what do we adjust? Okay, if it's an architectural thing, what's the departure point, for example? What's an architecture? Because what you say also is that of La Superpiston can be seen as kind of orchestra. Okay, you have the same problem. An orchestra is not an architecture. they have the same universal form, but I would like to know what is particularly defined the research as an architecture. It's not the same things that make us to define la Scopistou as an orchestra, because we have a singularity from the orchestra, we have a singularity from architecture, but we need to define it. So we need to read, to go back to what I call the substance. We need to go back to the language to try to understand what's, when I talk about something, for example, you can analyze my discourse as kind of something very programmatic. What do you talk about? I talk about the fact that I put 1 point, 2 points, 2nd point, but you can also analyze what I say as a kind of freestyle thing. I don't read my text. Every time I say, okay, I won't talk about it. I will talk about it. So the meaning, if you would like to analyze what I talk about today, is the fact that every time I say, okay, this is very complicated, so I switch. Because I do that, because I'm talking in English, I read my text in French, and I don't want to talk about philosophical things. I would like you to only to understand the way I do semiotics. So what we are going to analyze is what I talk about around what I'm talking about. Is it clear? That's it. I will talk about this later. I call it le mode mineur, the minor mode of the signification. What's sometimes important and what's wrong, and it will help us the way that people singularize things. And that's what I call an object. Okay. Now I would like to take second step. We have this kind of thing, James Led. Show it when he started to develop what we call la stratification. I don't know if you know this concept. The stratification of the language. But Fontani start to talk about this kind of things. Okay? Have a kind of graph from James Led stratification. Stratification. And from Fontani, you have what you call niveau de pertinence. Or plan d'immanence. You know this concept from Fontani. Okay? Niveau de pertinence. Or plan d'immanence. What does it talk about here? We talk about independence. That's it. It's a structure, but the structure is not shown here as something is close one to another. It's something is defined as from the independence from analysis. That's it. You can have the same thing held in one level and another. It's the same thing. It's the same structure. They talk about level here, but if you try to go back to yourself, this kind of what I talk about empirical attitude here, we talk about independence. So is it clear now? The independency is not inverse of dependency, it is something beside here. So we need to reflect like this. Very important. I wrote an article in Fontani in this review called Punctum. So it's kind of a great review. The article is a little bit hard. You're not going to start work with Fontani. You need to be hard to show that you are strong. So it's a little bit bad, but we are explaining this phenomenon. So take the time to read this Punctum. Okay, put in website and it's open. Okay, put Didier Tzala and Fontani. We have this article. We call it la sémiotique pilotée par la méthodologie. Semiotic piloted by methodology. For us, it's very important, and we don't work on this. Okay? The level in which it's like, and we can use it. I'm talking about what I talk about when I talk about the intentionality of François Baron. If when I have an object, I have to build something. So I have to ask myself, in which level do I talk about this? For example, so when James Left talk about the stratification, okay, what's important for him is not really the link between things, it's what is called les écarts, the gaps between things, between the main structure and the parts of the structure. What's the gap? And for him, the gap is very important. Okay, for example, when I create something, I need to know what kind of gap do I put by what is mainly accepted. He also talk about the synchronization. You know, synchronization, it's okay for me. So what is desynchron? What is fall? Something is fall. It's falling. Something is falling. So we need to. We have a kind of structure, very rigid, and inside the structure, what is synchron? So that we start to define what we call an object. Okay. We don't